let's continue with the discussion. After going through the learning objectives, you have a fair idea that today's discussion will be based on plate tectonics. So, the first objective was define plate. But first of all, let us look what is plate tectonics. Plate tectonics refers to the plate movements. There are several theories which is associated with plate tectonics. So the most popular theory was continental drift theory. So according to the learning objective, we have to define plate. So what is plate? Plate is a small subsections of the Earth's crust. So there is an image. You can see the image here. All this is the crust. Then it is divided into subsections, which is known as plate. Examples include Pacific plate, South American plate, African plate, and there are many other plates. Okay. So there is one popular theory which is associated with plate tectonic, and it is the continental drift theory. This theory was established by Alfred Wegener. He believed that the Earth was once joined as a supercontinent named Pangaea. This supercontinent later got split into two parts, which is Laurasia and Gondwana. So, Laurasia it moved to the north, and Gondwana it moved to the south. Clear till here?
Yes.
If you have any question, you can raise your hand and ask. So, plate tectonics also involves three types of plate boundaries. This includes convergent plate boundaries, divergent plate boundaries, and transform plate boundaries. So now let's look at constructive margin, which is also known as divergent plate boundary. So if in the exam it comes, define divergent plate boundary. It also means constructive margin. So don't get confused. If sometimes they use constructive margin and sometimes they use divergent margin. So this is the boundary where two plates are moving away from each other, or they are diverging. That's why it is called divergent plate boundary. So as a result, magma immediately rises from the mantle to fill any possible gap, and a new crust is formed. The accumulated magma is constructive boundaries, which results in the formation of mid-oceanic ridges. For example, it includes East Pacific rise, which is formed by moving a part of Nazca and the Pacific plate. Can you see here? This is the Nazca plate and this is the Pacific plate. So when these two plates move apart, magma rises and it forms a new oceanic crust. We have another example. Mid-Atlantic ridge is formed by the movement of Eurasian and North American plates. Clear? So we have another diagram. You can see these two are the plates. You can see the arrows. It is moving apart. So when these two plates are moving apart, you can see magma, which is in color orange. It rises and it fills up the gap. That's why a new crust is formed. Then we have destructive margin which is also known as convergent plate boundary. Two plates in destructive margin, two plates are moving towards each other. Then there is two types of destructive margin, which is crust to continental. It means oceanic crust and continental crust are moving towards each other. This occurs when an oceanic crust moves towards a continental crust and the heavier oceanic crust is forced beneath the continental crust. This process is known as subduction zone. So subduction zone is created when the continental crust and the heavier oceanic crust is beneath the continental crust. Why? Because oceanic crust is heavier. The subduction zone is an area where subduction occurs and it is marked by a deep oceanic trench. Magma, on the other hand, is likely to be pushed upwards along the beyond or the plate, which is also known as continental crust. It forms a chain of volcanoes or the volcanic arcs. You can see in the picture. So this is the oceanic crust and this is the continental crust. So when they are moving towards each other, the oceanic crust, it subducts, means it sinks down because it is heavier. So this is the zone of subduction. That's why a new trench is formed. Then we have collision margin. Collision boundaries are the boundaries where two continental crusts move towards each other. This is different from the first one that we have covered now. Here, two continental crusts are moving towards each other. So this is because both crusts are of the same density, neither they will sink and they will collide, which forms the fault mountains. You can see the image here. So this is the continental crust and another one is also a continental crust. They both are of the same density. That means none of them will sink. So imagine this is one plate and this is another continental crust. So they are moving towards each other and they are of the same density. They have same pressure, so they all rise like this. Clear? Yes. Then we have, what is this word? Conservative margin, which is also known as transform plate boundary. You can make additional notes. And this is also known as passive margin. These are the boundaries where two plates slide past each other or they move in a parallel direction. A crust is neither formed nor destroyed along this boundary. In this plate boundary, a new crust is not formed or neither it is destroyed because they just move in a parallel direction. Then I have a short video to watch.
Plate boundaries. Some of the most dramatic changes in the Earth's crust, like mountain ranges, new islands, or earthquakes, occur along plate boundaries. There are three types of plate boundaries: divergent boundaries, convergent boundaries, and transform boundaries. Convergent boundaries occur when two plates collide. There are three major types. First is continental to continental. This occurs when two plates of continental crust collide. They buckle and thicken, and this causes mountains to form. Next, you have continental to ocean collisions. When a plate of ocean crust collides with a plate of continental crust, the ocean crust is more thick and subducts or goes underneath the continental crust. The magma from the melted oceanic crust rises to the surface, and this results in volcanoes along the boundary. Ocean to ocean collisions occur when two plates of oceanic crust collide. The older, more dense plate subducts under the younger plate, and as a result, the crust melts and creates an island arc. Next, you have divergent boundaries. This is when two plates move away from each other. The separation allows the asthenosphere to rise towards the surface and partially melt. This melting creates magma, which erupts as lava, and then the lava cools and hardens to create new rock and ocean floor or new continental crust. As the crust and upper part of the asthenosphere cool and become rigid, they form new lithospheres, like meadows and ridges. Most of these divergent boundaries are located on the ocean floor. However, rift valleys may also form where the continents are separated by plates. And finally, transform boundaries occur where two plates pass each other horizontally. When the plates move next to each other, they do not go along smoothly. Instead, they scrape at each other in a series of sudden slippages of crustal rock, and these can be felt as earthquakes. Unlike the other types of boundaries, transform boundaries generally do not produce magma. The San Andreas Fault in California is a major transform boundary. So there we go, 3 types of plate boundaries: convergent, divergent, and transform. Thanks for watching.
So what did we learn from this video? That there are 3 types of plate boundaries, that is transform, convergent, and divergent. In transform plate boundaries, no new crust is formed, but natural hazards such as earthquake occurs. Example is San Andreas Fault, as you have seen in the video. Now I have a short activity for you to do. These are the activity questions. You can write it in your books. You have 5 minutes to complete this activity. You can discuss in pairs. If you are confused about anything, you can ask your friends, or you can ask to me. Once you are done with question 1 and 2, you can tell me so that I can tell you to do question number 3 and 4. If you are stuck, you can ask. Completed. Okay, you have another 1 minute. You can round off your work. Completed. Okay, have another activity you have to do. You have to make a chart on the types of plate boundaries. You can do this activity in pairs. This is the sausage. You can discuss and then start making the chart. After making a chart, then one member can come up and present.
Completed.
Completed. Okay, let's mark the first activity, which was the worksheet. Lal, read question number 1.
What are some of the landforms created by plate tectonics?
So what is the answer? You can mark your work. Okay, let's do one
Fold
thing.
mountains,
You can exchange your worksheet and mark your PS work. So what is the answer?
fold mountains,
Yes.
sonic trenches,
Yeah, very good. Monil, what is your answer? Is it same?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Monil, read question number 2.
Volcanic island arcs are associated with ocean convergent plate boundaries.
So it says volcanic island acts are associated with transform plate boundaries. So this is a multiple choice question. So you have to choose. So what is your answer?
C.
The answer is ocean to ocean convergent plate boundaries. Because in the notes we have seen that. Then we have question number 3. Can you answer, Lal?
which characteristics of technical convergent plate boundaries boundaries when oceanic and continental crust mix. Answer is B. Oceanic crust and subducted.
Yes, the answer is B. You can mark your work. In question number 4, it says, in which plate boundary new oceanic crust is formed?
B.
No. It was a good try. Anyone wants to try again?
A.
Yeah, it's a very good Randir. It's divergent plate boundary.
Boundaries.
New oceanic crust is formed when two plates are moving away from each other. Why a new crust is formed? Because magma is rising up and it is filling the gap. And after that you were supposed to make a chart. Now the chart is made. One member from the group can come and present.
Set. Alright, this is types of plate boundaries. 3 types of plate boundaries. The first one is divergent plate boundaries, which are moving apart from each other, like arrow shows in the diagram. And the second one is convergent plate boundaries, which are moving towards the other. And the third one is a transform one, and is moving opposite direction to each other.
Randir, if you want to add anything, you can. If you want to add, any comments?
And
Okay, thank you. Well done.